The rude disposition of the lands of Discordia. Ever join a Discord server and you're sharing your art, you're talking with people, and then you start noticing, how have y'all been? Ugh, my life sucks. My dad beats my mom, beats my dog, beats my cat, my hamster, and I have winter depression. And oh my god, I'm so hungry.
Why me Uber Eats?
Wow, your art looks so great. I love the composition. I look forward to seeing you finish this piece. Here's a piece I've been working on. It's been taking me forever to figure out how to render the nose, but I think I got it. The eyes look weird. Okay, perhaps I'm exacerbating it a wee bit. However, the essence of the issue remains. People are getting more self-centered now. I'm Sabal Black Sheep. Having any soul? No sir, no sir. But today we will be yapping about the frankly strange social behavior we have kind of integrated into our lexicon. With the integration of social media and short-form content into the mainstream zeitgeist, this constant stream of media has shifted how we identify with ourselves and conceptualize our identity. I'm Gen Z, and as of 2025, I'm 21 years old. And me and some of my peers are some of the first people that really grew up online. I grew up in the online art community, watching pedantic art drama unfold for the last 10 years. And over time, I noticed the more involved people were in these online spaces, how it subtly changed their baseline social behavior. A quick intersection to ask you guys to check out my webcomic Penelope's Peon. If you like narratives about the human condition or, I don't know, enjoy Disco Elysium, you might enjoy it. I think it's pretty cool. I posted on Tapas, link below. If that doesn't tickle your pickle, come check out our 17+ Discord server to meet a bunch of cool artists and get your art in the next video. Nowadays, there's quite a few people growing up and learning socialization online. This has changed what people use to center their value systems. We as humans are a social species. When we learn to center the socialization we may have in person, we're forced to subconsciously reconcile with the reality that this person in front of us is a fully expansive individual that exists beyond our limited perspective. However, online, we're often just faced with our interpretation of words rather than the conceptualization of the other party. Which is why I think there has been such a rise in frankly rude behavior online. It's often that interacting with people directly in places like Discord servers, this issue is most apparent. How I often see it materialized is in a few archetypes that can bleed into each other. Number 1, the earnest yet self-indulgent yapper. Number 2, the opinionated elitist. And number 3, the infantilized snowflake. Now, the thing that permeates each archetype is a lack of introspection. Let's talk about the issues with their actions, perception, and the reason they've come to this as a cope, and how, if you have any of these traits, can start overcoming them. Number 1, the earnest yet self-indulgent yapper. This person is characterized by their friendliness and desire to be around people, yet unable to keep company for long, as most of all they do half the time is just talk about themselves. Tell endless stories about themselves, talk about their interests or hobbies nonstop. This person often takes over a conversation, and when other parties try to open it up and decenter the person from the conversation, the person often ignores it and keeps talking about themselves. This is very frustrating, but it's often too awkward to tell them the issue, so the individual thinks there's something wrong with them without realizing the real core of the problem. And other people don't really want to be around them as they're often kind of soul-sucking at times. Now, I find this individual tends to greatly value social interaction and seek it out. However, doesn't know how to act within it. I think this archetype is often created by a sense of isolation in their personal lives, so they tend to look towards their interests as an escape. They build identities around these interests and often can't voice them in their personal lives. They quietly consume so much content that when they find a community to talk to, it often just comes out as word vomit. They notice people get awkward or unsure what to say, so in fear of silence, they just continue and don't realize the people around them have more expansive identities than that of the common ground. The earnest yappers' only escape being from quietly consuming content for so long has stunted their social awareness. My advice to those earnest yappers out there: think of other people as stories to learn from. End each one of your stories or yaps with a question to the other person, and sit and wait for them to give a full answer or story of their own. It is very, very important you let everyone talk. And once that person is done talking, please, this is the most important part, comment and ask questions about the information they told you. People want to understand. It's important you let them know you do understand and that you were listening. That can even be reiterating what they already said. And if someone interrupts you after you've been saying a story for like 10 minutes with no interruption, it's a slight social correction to just shh. It ain't a podcast, sweetheart. Number 2. The opinionated elitist. Now, when I was younger, I was definitely in this archetype, and I know it well since I have met many people of varying ages that fall into this archetype. This one can often be the most ostracized, as it's honestly the most insulting. Because they project their dislike and hatred outwards. The other two will often project their negative emotions inwards on themselves. The opinionated elitist oftentimes will refuse to follow the rules, argue about the semantics of the rules, and try to find loopholes. This individual tends to value intelligence and sees themselves as more intelligent on a baseline than other people around them. Their behavior could also come through posts online you may pass every now and then that are like, I always knew X person was bad, or I don't care what y'all say, I hate X person, or even I value brutal honesty, that's why I'm telling you, you suck. The essence of those, their every thought needs to be heard, so it often ends up with them being the people harassing creators. They think that their perspective is intrinsically correct despite it oftentimes being short-sighted. This person sometimes isn't always fully aware of their words and actions. They can be so used to this as a baseline that they think it's socially acceptable. They're just sassy and telling their opinion, or they're just brutally honest, so you should suck it up, buttercup. It's just selfishness. It's selfishness to want to get away with being an asshole. And I was one of them, so I will fully admit this is not good behavior. The reason this archetype will often come around is from being born into a family environment where people are judgmental and hold some level of elitism. That elitism can even be thinking they deserve more in life because they work hard or have a bad job. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to be rich to be elitist. It's born out of frustration and passivity at times. This archetype will look to their parents and older family members and see their judgment towards the world, and mimic it to avoid being a part of the world that their guardians seem to hate so much. Honestly, I've dealt with this one a lot growing up, as I was this archetype to a T from 13 to 16. Best way to deconstruct it is to recognize your parents or whoever spurred this behavior on. It can even be a YouTuber, a public figure you've admired since you were young. Look at them and realize that they're an extremely flawed person and self-aggrandizing to soothe the fact that they have no control in their lives. And you're no better. Remember to pick your battles. If there's a rule in a server and you don't like it, you don't have to be a revolutionary. Either follow it or leave. Think about the dread the creators have every time they see you say things like you hate them for no reason, or something that they can't change, or is just not that big of a deal. Think of how much of a pedantic imbecile it makes you seem. Look, I'm not trying to be harsh, it's just this one is often the hardest for people to overcome. You genuinely have to knock yourself down a few pegs to realize how miserable you're making yourself. You don't need to run your confidence into the ground. Recognize the world is expansive outside of you. Everyone has a world model that has just as much as depth as yours. Number 3, the infantilized snowflake. Trigger lists, mental illness lists. This individual wants to be accepted but not seen oftentimes. They'll change a topic in a group conversation based on the fact that they feel weird about it. They often use mental illness as a shield from actual self-reflection and evaluation. They oftentimes like soft, childlike things and will often live with very few adult responsibilities. Some of these things aren't necessarily bad at all. It's okay to enjoy childlike things. The main issue with this individual, though, is that they often don't just hold themselves back, but everyone around them. The people around them often can't talk fully about topics in fear of triggering them, and tend to need to over-police tone and wordplay for this individual. This individual can often play moral high horse over silly things and ostracize others. To be frank, your triggers are your responsibility, and you really shouldn't share your mental struggles too much publicly in things like your bio, as it can put you in danger. It can let bad actors know how they can manipulate or trigger you. Tell people you know and trust, but it isn't wise to make it such public knowledge, especially if you're a minor or vulnerable adult. When I say triggers are your responsibility, what I mean is that you need to remove yourself from situations without expecting or wanting others to come running after you. It's okay to be sensitive, it really is. It's just isn't other people's responsibility to cater to it. With close friends, there is a different expectation. Friends should listen to your triggers and actively avoid them. This archetype is often created by explosive homes and social ostracization from childhood. Their parents will often lead a bad example of being very emotionally loud and making it hard for the individual to know what is and isn't okay when it comes to showing how they feel. This person is often made to feel like a lot of the wrongs in their family's lives are their fault. So they tend to avoid thinking about harder topics, as their baseline tends to be to accuse themselves. For this individual's growth, honestly, coming to terms with your own responsibility as a person, realizing that others aren't black and white and exist on an expansive amoral spectrum, is impertinent. This archetype often forgets other people's humanity and this desire to be cared for. This individual has to grow up at some point, so they need to start taking baby steps in the direction of responsibility. That can even be just going to the grocery store and making yourself some food, or leaving a group that's too much instead of making drama out of it, while realizing there's nothing inherently wrong with the people in said group. It's okay to still be sensitive and have more childlike outlets to de-stress, however, it shouldn't take over the reality of the world we live in. These are just a few trends I notice among us chronically online folk, and I thought it'd be interesting to talk about them as I'm sure many of us have been or are still in these archetypes. Like I said, they often bleed into each other. If you're watching this video and you're realizing you kind of fall into one of these, that's okay. Truly, don't feel like you're some evil person, but recognize it might be time to work on it, as these behaviors will make it harder to reasonably connect with the people you love or will love. Learning to better communicate isn't changing who you are, just the delivery. Introspection will always be your best friend, and you need to have compassion for yourself. You have to live with yourself for the rest of your life, so the person who'll need the most compassion from you is gonna be yourself. Anyway, that's all I have for today, folks. If you like my art, consider commissioning me. You can reach out to me on Discord, or join the Patreon for weekly exclusive Discord streams where I draw whatever you want. You got work tomorrow, or school, or ranting about the annoying people you've met on Discord over the years. But as always, don't dream about wheat-based byproducts. Moi, je m'appelle mademoiselle Noire, et qu'on va pour la voix,